Hello, and welcome to the Table and Well podcast. I'm Tennison.
And I'm Ginelle. Thank you for joining us as we discuss topics and give practical tools that help you live, grow, and be in healthy, joy-filled relationship with God, yourself, and others.
For more information and resources, or if you're looking for coaching, connection, and community, visit tableandwell.org. We hope you enjoy this podcast. You are listening to Fingerprints, how God is transforming the relational health of His family. All throughout this series, you will hear transformational stories from everyday people just like you. But what if this transformation isn't just for them? What if it's for you too? I want to let you know that it is for you as well. And that's why we've created Relational Collabs, intentional spaces where this type of transformation becomes real. These are small, safe communities where you will practice the skills that will help you grow and build joy, rebuild your trust, enable you to stay present in the middle of hard moments, help you deeply connect to God, yourself, and others, and experience the authentic connection that your heart was designed for. See, this is more than just another class or a book study or even a Bible study. This is real life. This is hands-on. This is heart-connected, and it's changing lives. If you're tired of disconnection, and if you're longing for something more, don't just listen to these stories, become one. For more information, or to join our fall collabs starting in September, go to tableandwell.org/collabs. You were never meant to walk this journey alone. And your healing is part of how God is leaving His fingerprints in the transformation of the relational health of His family. That actually kind of leads into this next question. How has your growth impacted your relationship with your family, your friends, with your community? And Lissa, how has that been for you, that impact?
So I think for me, I've tried to be aware of when I'm with people. I love to be present and really listen to what they're saying and do all of that. But typically when I'm present and I'm listening, the questions that come up are more on that thinking, processing, how do we make it happen? And I've noticed that I'm spending more time when people are talking to think about, how does that feel? Where is that coming from? More looking at it on that side and trying to give more space for that. Definitely, I have a long way to go, but I'm noticing that I'm spending more time in that space and asking people more on that connecting part of it.
Yeah.
How does that truly feel? And what does that feel like if we did it differently and stuff? So I'm noticing that piece of it, that there's that shift from not totally being on the thinking, but at least part of it bringing in the feeling and what feeling is that and different things.
Yeah.
Like that.
So have you noticed a difference in maybe the way people respond in that space from like thinking to feeling?
Yeah. It's a deeper connection, and I think they spend more time. You can tell that when I ask the thinking question, fairly quickly, somebody can give me something. When I ask the thinking question, the feeling question, you can tell it takes them a little bit of time to think about that. And what does that really mean? And how does that do? It's kind of like when you ask a person, so tell me about yourself. And I always tell clients, if I'm working with them and they're doing an interview, I don't want to hear your CV. I don't want you to regurgitate that. Because when you ask people, so tell me about yourself, they always go to what they do.
Yeah.
If you ask them, who are you? Most people draw a blank. And often I think what I'm noticing is when I ask people to share, so how do you feel about that? What is that feeling? Where's that coming from? It's that same blank. Because most of us don't spend time thinking about, well, how do we feel or what's causing that particular feeling? So it is that deeper connection, I think, that people are taking time for themselves even to become a bit more self-aware.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's really good. I love that.
Thank you. It's like self-empathy.
Exactly. Yeah.
We've been taught to not even be empathetic toward ourselves, and we can't figure out why we're not very empathetic in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Laran, how about you?
Well, for me, again, immediately, within the first couple months of diving into that training I did, the 14-week training I did with Jim Wilder, I was able to connect with my daughters pretty quickly, and I don't spend too much time talking anymore about the dad I wasn't. And they asked me to stop talking about that. They're just happy to have the dad they have today. And they're in their 30s, but it fundamentally changed our relationship because and my oldest daughter actually said it very recently. And in one conversation we had, she said, I took a chance and gave you an opportunity to understand kind of where she was in the moment, even though she was thousands of miles away, but emotionally what was happening. And I showed up. And she didn't, I mean, she was taking a huge risk because I had never shown up before. And she was, I don't know, this was COVID. It was 2020. So it wasn't that long ago. And I showed up. I was the dad she needed then. And it just have continued to work to work with that, even though we have so many differences in how we think, and but we stay connected. So that was absolutely huge for me. And when I went through a really tough time a couple years ago, I had never thought about not wanting to be here anymore. But it was a really tough time. I'm like, I don't know if I want to. I just don't want to be here anymore. And because of the work I'd done with Jim Wilder and Michael Hendricks, and the connection I developed with my youngest daughter, she was her face was what kept me from even going down that dark path, because I'm like, I could not devastate her. We had become so tightly bonded that I couldn't do that. No matter what I had to suffer through, I would never do that to her. And part of that was just to understand the things we're learning about, facial expressions, body language. Like I could see what would happen to her if she found out that I had done something horrible like that. And so yeah, it's and then as it affects today, we do community in our own living room with these brain skills because I'm committed to them. I believe it's my mission, and I can't imagine doing discipleship without them. I'm like, it never helped me. That's not true. It didn't help as much as you hear about it, because there was a whole half of the brain that was missing. So I look at everything now in life through those. I have much more compassion for people. I can certainly see their side of the story. So I take less judgment because I used to be a very judgmental person, and I take less judgment, and I work on that all the time. So
that's really cool. I have a curious question. See if I can formulate it right. So I noticed when you first talked about learning these skills that you learned them on the left side of your brain, but it really wasn't until the two of you were married that you really started having to practice them. But I also hear you saying that you really practiced them with your daughter. And as a parent of a young adult, I understand what it's like in relationship as a parent to a child, and then what it's like in a mutually satisfying co-relationship in a marriage, the intimacy of a marriage. And so there's just a curiosity for me of, I'm noticing in your story that there was a different leaning into you and your personal growth. And I don't know if I'm saying it right, because I see how you grew as a dad and how radically you changed there. But then I see you applying it differently and needing to apply it differently when essentially you're naked in a marriage. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing with our kids. There's certain things that still remain private. Yeah. And then, but in a marriage that's less so. And so I'm just kind of curious about that.
It's a great question. It's a great awareness. I think I took those parts of it seriously and did what I needed to do. But I didn't necessarily need to work on the interpersonal of an intimate relationship. But I thought I was farther along than I am. So there's been this prompting to don't take this lightly. It's critical. It's critical for humanity at this point, at this stage where we are, and putting more into it. I've had to because I have a beautiful wife that deserves my best, and that doesn't always show up. And So yeah, I had not thought about that, but I had thought about how did I get by for so long between those years where I'm tight with my daughters, but I didn't have a wife, and I had relationships, but not, nothing that was ultra close. So that's a very interesting, very interesting observation.
Yeah.
It's a gift.
Yeah. Lissa, do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I just love the time. I give him opportunity on a daily basis to grow in these skills.
Yep. That is, yes.
It is so
It is so true. It is so true. Yeah. It's totally different practicing these skills with your kids or with friends that you maybe see at church or that you see at work. The people, even your clients, it's totally different practicing those skills with them than it is practicing the skills here and there. And because there's just a different level of intimacy that you can't hide. There's no hiding. And so
you can walk away from your children. You can walk away from your employees. Yeah, you're going to lay in the same bed. I mean, there's no walking away. We're going to go to bed together. We're going to wake up together.
Yeah,
and they're still there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and you actually can continue the behavior of disconnecting.
Oh,
and I've had those temptations. Like, man, it would just be so much easier to not talk about this.
Yep.
Just push it aside. And then I know that stuff comes out in other places.
Mm-hmm.
And so so it's interesting to become more right-brained and still be manly, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it allows us those of us who are consuming it and doing something about it. I think God took that part of that, the relational side of man, when he made woman. He shifted them to be primarily right-brained. And if we want to love our wives well, we will intentionally go back to the relationship side. And it requires more work, usually from us, to get there than it does for women. I think I could be wrong about that. But it's also manly to do it. It's also all man, all masculine to make that choice.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Yeah. Because I think this can be argued into like a feminine trait or a masculine trait.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, Lissa, that you were talking earlier about how you feel like your roles are reversed. And I think we talked about this a little over dinner, but we have felt that same tendency. I was raised in a very male world, very left-brained, like what were feelings for? Life was easier without them. And Tennison was definitely much more the feeler, although he didn't have any way to express it either.
Didn't express them. But I definitely felt.
He definitely felt, yeah. And I did too. I was kidding myself. I was a hot mess on the inside, just very within this intimate relationship.
Yeah.
But very put together on the outside everywhere else. And but I love your point, Laran, because it's not about this is just for women that can explore their emotional health. It is for men too. And I think it's for both. As Lissa and I share, we're women who never really got to explore that and live in that. And I think there's this beautiful balance if we're trying to look more like God and who he created us to be, his imprint, then we would be both.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful on men and it's beautiful on women. They're not to be only held by one or the other.
Yeah, and if you think about what we learned through reading the trilogy of Growing a More Human Community, just the sheer responsibility of fatherhood, the things that fathers are responsible for to transfer to children neurobiologically, and that's not happening because men don't have it. And that's through both sides of the brain, but it's primarily the nurturing side, the right side, and again, you can see the enemy's footprint on how he's orchestrated the removal of these skills in our society, and men have probably been the most directly impacted by ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and no modeling.
Oh yeah,
Right.
that's the
Yeah.
Right? Who's modeling something different?
Right.
Yeah. There's a really interesting thing that actually happens biologically after a baby's born. Men have a huge surge of estrogen, and women have a huge surge of testosterone. And it's often very tough on the marriage or on the relationship because women become very protector, task oriented. We need to do what we need to do to keep this little thing alive. And I am now like a human milk machine on no sleep. And then men become really soft, and it actually frustrates women because we're like, I need you to be on the task with me. Like, what is going on? We have this human.
Mhm.
But I think it's a beautiful design of the Lord that he invites us into, like he softens men and he invites women to like step into another space, because I think it is a both and.
Yeah, it's not a masculine or feminine.
Yeah, we're not
thing.
meant to live there, but we are meant to carry one
Experience
another and balance one another and experience both. Like we both carry estrogen and testosterone in our body for a reason. If we weren't meant to have it, it wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But even how the Lord gives us surges at times. And so, yeah, I love that thought, and how important it is for fathers to be nurturing. It is an aspect that we need in this world that is absolutely missing.
Yeah. Lisa, did you have something that?
Yeah, I was just thinking that so often they're thinking about it, especially boys and stuff, looking back at sports and different things. That mantra is just suck it up. Suck it up. Never given space to sit in the moment. What hurts? How do you feel? Any of that. Suck it up and get back out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Rub some dirt on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But then we end up with men who have all of that underneath, but have no way to let it out. And then it comes out in ways that are just so unhealthy and destructive, honestly, to them, to their families, to their children. And I think women are the same way. Like we're being taught as well to suppress our emotions and be like these super women that are supposed to take care of children, work full-time jobs, get all the tasks done around the house, as if we're somehow not humans either.
And not feel anything in the process, or where you don't have time to feel anything.
Right. Yeah. And both of us are being denied the fullness of the human journey that was actually a gift. It was meant to be a gift.
So I'll be 65 in January. And so for women my age, the mantra we heard was never let him see you cry. Never let him see you cry. In the work field. If you were in the workforce.
Yes.
Never let him see you cry.
Right. Because that was a huge era of women entering the workforce and having to earn their space, essentially.
Yes.
And again, because as you said earlier, men were taught to show no emotion and just shove it all and move forward. So anything that was emotional for men, it was like, well, yeah, women aren't cut out for this world because they're too emotional or they're crying or they can't do whatever. And so, it's amazing how it's just amazing how, like you were saying earlier, Laran, just about like how God, the original design that he had for us in our brains and the right and left side working together, how in pretty much every area of society there has been, we have been taught to not use one side of our brain on that's been the
it's like either one or the other.
Yeah, that's been the theme. Yeah. That's just
not true.
Depending on where you are, what your societal space is. You can't use both. You can either be really touchy-feely and free love and that whole thing and just all this stuff over here, or you have to be super
decisive
and
interesting.
Very interesting.
Laran, did you have a thought?
I have lots of them.
You're welcome to share them.
Welcome to share them here.
I was just, I was thinking about trauma and about, what's required for trauma to process. The brain's called the pain processing pathway. And, the way to stick people is to stick those traumas, is to stick them somewhere to make sure that we don't progress through. And, years ago, I think actually beginning of my EMT career, I was reading an article about the San Ysidro McDonald's massacre in San Ysidro, California in I think it was 84, where a gunman walked into McDonald's and he shot 40 people, and 20 of those people didn't leave the building. It was the first ever really big mass shooting. It wasn't, a lot of people don't know about it because we didn't have social media back then. But the article I was reading was talking about the PTSD that came from that. And I think, if I recall right, it was 90% of the police, fire, and EMS left the field because they had no way to process. Nobody knew how to help them deal with that. And so when I think about what changed after that, what changed was they started having these debriefs after a big event like that. They would do these debriefs, and what they discovered was the most important thing was for people to say, to give detail about what they saw, no matter how graphic, what they smelled, what they thought, all those things. That's how it unstuck them. And that same process is happening for just little things with little kids who have something that sticks, and they just need to be able to talk about it. They need to be able to say the details, and somebody needs to sit with them and be glad to be with them and not be. And so, in our community on Wednesdays, we have a lady started coming, and she has a traumatic past. And I know I've talked to her plenty of times. I know what she comes with, and the only question is, can the community handle the story, right? Can they hear what? And day one, she came in, and I gave her an open door, and she just let go with one of her stories. And I was watching the faces of the people, and I was so proud because not because of just proud that nobody showed horror or disgust. Everybody was engaged. And there were some tears, and there was nothing but empathy. But for most communities, that takes training. If I hear something, it's somebody's story that disgusts me, I have to learn to be present with them. It still presents differently than what's being triggered. And
it's inside,
So that's the power. That's what churches should be, hospitals, and they should know how to do that. And we are so far from that. That all we do is say, well, it's a sin, you sin, whatever. We're so far from that.
Or like we like to say, oh, we'll just rub some Jesus on it. Let me pray for you.
Right. And it's not wrong to do that. But what you have to acknowledge, what I think we now know is that what Jesus, he will do whatever he can do, what he permitted himself to do by his sovereignty and the way he designed the system. But the way he designed the system, if you will, is that people would be his hands and feet, with skills would be his hands and feet to help people get through that stuff. So it's both and. It's not either or, it's both and.
It is both and.
Yeah. Praying and walking away often isn't the answer. That's not how those paramedics and first responders would get through. They needed people to stay and to hear and to hold space, and we all need that. We need to know that people in our lives will hold space for our stories. And you're right, we're vastly underskilled, especially in the church, because we often haven't sat with our own stories either, right? And I love the way you talked about that earlier about self-care starts with people who should have cared for you in the beginning, and when that's missing, we have a lot of backwards work to do. And I know it's your guys' heart as it is ours to become those people that can help do the repair work with others, even though there's been a huge absence for us. How do we become those people so that people can get the care that they need that maybe they never had, and whether that's never had in their childhood or never had in moments of life where people could have and should have, I hate to say the word should have, but where we were designed in the system to stay, right? Where our design initially was to stay. So.
And if I could make a quick connection, because I feel like I went down a little bit of bunny trail, but what I was thinking of as far as the world for men is the trauma of these experiences that we don't see good fathering modeled, and yet we're told that we're given the message to just just do this, just do this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's these stuck places. There's these traumas. I hate using that word because I know it's so overused, but it is what it is, that are preventing us from doing that. And nobody's telling men that yes, you're responsible, but you didn't cause it. It is the difference between iniquity versus sin. And I can't go, I'm not going to go too far into that, but it's iniquity versus sin. And you're not responsible for as I understand it, the iniquity, but you are responsible for to heal. And that's where I was going with the trauma piece is like our communities have to be places where men can explore those emotions and let them process through their brain and get healed from them so they can be whole. And women.
Yeah. And so much of trauma is not about experiencing a traumatic event, which is B trauma. And it's not about A trauma where it's the absence of. It's about the fact that we didn't have people with us.
Yep,
that
right.
A trauma is all about that we didn't have a stronger, wiser mind, somebody to be with us when we ran out of capacity to feel safe and to feel seen and heard and okay and stable. That's where that A trauma comes from. And then you have B trauma where catastrophic events happen. And if we have someone who can be present, who has capacity beyond our capacity to remind us that we are okay and that we're not alone, then a lot of those B traumas are actually prevented. They're not stored in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so even as we're talking about like reprocessing some of these traumas, what we're giving our brain an opportunity to do and our nervous system is to remember that we're actually not alone. If I share my traumatic story in a safe place, then that actually tells my brain, you're no longer in isolation in this space.
Mm-hmm.
So many of us walk around with stories that are hidden from public view for a reason. Like we don't go around sharing everything with everyone either. I'm not saying that, but we can, it's almost like an anchor that constantly weighs us down because there's never been a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
And then those feelings of being alone or not wanting to be here really can become magnified in that space. So may we become better people, become more capable people of holding people's stories.
Yeah.
It is so important.
And I think that once that we get there, it's that what we often tell ourselves, well, nobody will understand. If they haven't experienced what I've experienced, they can't understand. And when they can have somebody sit with them to realize the person doesn't have to have gone through. They just have to be present with me.
Yes.
They just have to be
Yes.
there with me as I share.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the training that comes with that is how do you actually be there? Facial expression, body language.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because that matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just sticking it out. You know, when the body language is, I would just like to leave right now. But I love that, Lisa. That's exactly it. It's like I'm here and I am present. I'm here and I'm present, and I'm not going anywhere.
You've been listening to the Table and Well podcast. New episodes stream every Tuesday. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review to let us know. Also, subscribe on your favorite listening platform to stay up to date on all things Table and Well. To learn more, start your journey, or get information on how Table and Well can help develop your community, family, or teams to be relationally healthy and authentically connected, please go to tableandwell.org/collab to schedule an interest call, or you can email us directly at known@tableandwell.org.